Good morning. My name is Jordan Dinoffria, your host here at the insert creative title of this podcast. No idea. I'm just doing it. I have no plan here. I do have a little bit of an outline, of course, a few words, but I feel like I have a lot to share, and that kind of goes into my first point that I want to make is what made me start a podcast. Well, I would say the reason why I started a podcast is I feel that I have had a really cool journey throughout the short life I've lived, just shy of 30 years. I know that I'm very young, and when I say I've lived I guess a story-filled life, is because it's not more of like, I think I've come to the terms with that fact of knowing like, hey, it's the life that I've lived is that there's so many different journeys that I've been on that aren't necessarily down like the same, you can say, you're not even gonna say paths, but like the same even just like region of paths. I mean, I've traveled complete opposite ways. So I feel like I have so much to share. I have so much to give in that respect. And I hope that it gives perspective for anybody that wanted to watch something like this. But you don't know who I am. So before I go into what made me, I can dive a little bit more deeper into that, but really who I am, right? I am a now founder and integrative health coach for Forge Performance Company. Which this is where this podcast will live, underneath Forge. And this has grown, my life has grown, and who I am has grown. And I feel like, when you get the question of like, well, who are you? I have so many different answers, and that changes, and especially frequently lately, is it changes so much day to day. But in this moment, founder, integrative health coach, here at Forge Performance Company, and I really focus on identity alignment, not only with myself constantly, but obviously with clients and just people in general. Identity alignment's huge, I think, and that's what I will be also talking about today, is around identity alignment. But my background is, like I've said, like I was kind of talking about in the beginning, it's kind of wild. I grew up in I guess a normal childhood, suburbs of Chicago, and I had a lot of different different things happen throughout my childhood that I'll probably get into at later times when I feel comfortable enough to share. But at the same time, my childhood was good. It was pretty good overall. I grew up in a very athletic, I guess you could say, household. I was really in everything and anything. I tried all sports, honestly, but I really focused in on a few specific ones, being like football, wrestling. Wrestling was number one, but I tried a lot of different ones. And going through that journey of athletics is I think really interesting, especially in the younger years. But right when it goes into like more of like teenage years, high school, and then also through college, I try to walk on to collegiately wrestling. So like college athletics, I did do that for a short while, and then I ended up doing cheerleading. Like, I'm telling you, completely, athletics, yes, but completely opposite in so many ways. But with me going through that journey, I realized how many similarities the two sports had in a lot of different ways. But yeah, went through cheerleading and collegiately. Like I mentioned, college right there, right? Go to a 4-year university, had my struggles there. Got suspended, dropped out, went in the Marine Corps, active duty for 4 years. Served honorably, left honorably. Now, and that was in 2022. I got married when I was in the Marine Corps. I had my first daughter while I was there. But I'm a father of 2 now. I'm relocated myself in Northwest Arkansas. Picked up a job for the last 3 years now in technology at a Fortune 100 company here in the local area. Um, yeah, it's kind of all over the place. And now what brings me here is I started a company here in December of 2025, and I just started a podcast. What's today? Don't know. January something, 2026. So I don't know how, if that all, I hope that there's value of me explaining everything that all the avenues that I took, and that's such a bird's eye view. There are so many more, and I feel so many unique stories, of course, throughout all of that. So anything there, maybe you connect with it. But I plan to talk a little bit or a lot and go in really deep on a lot of those things on future podcasts, because I think that they all bring unique stories that are geared towards specific populations of people that might deal with their own traumas, or might deal with like their own roadblocks, or just even their own like positive things that have happened in their lives that they would, want to connect with. Anyway, that's who I am. I'm Jordan. That's it. I got some really cool plans with this podcast, but for today, my plan is really going back to, what made me start podcasting. Well, and you might have noticed, I'm rocking a coffee and a Red Bull. Yeah, I know. It could look a little weird. It's not weird for me. It's okay. It's fine. But I will be okay. My heart's fine. Yeah. So through why I started, I kind of talked about that in the beginning, really about how, I think I have a lot to give. I think that, and that's really all. It's sometimes might be a cheesy thing to say, or like always the go-to is like, I want to help people. That's really, I think, through a lot of self-identity. I said we'll talk about that. A lot of self-reflection. I've 100% realized that what makes me happy and what drives me is truly helping people in specific communities that I love, of course, and I think the ones that I've shared throughout my life, like, for example, the wrestling community, or of course the veteran community, and I've helped specifically in those ways, and throughout the last, really probably around the last 4 years, I think I've really dove into helping people truly. And I hope that this podcast somewhat helps you grow, realize, how important self-reflection is, or maybe just talk about things that, interest us. And I feel that this is the best way of communication for me, honestly. I've done short form videos, even though it's not so much short form. I just start talking and I realize it's about 2 minutes in, and I'm like, this isn't short form. So yeah, I've done Instagram now, TikTok. I've done that for the last, I think, month and a half, or even close to 2 months now, consistently every single day. And that's been great. I just feel like I'm stopping myself from explaining more, because I want to share more. I'm like, this is why I'm thinking this. Like, here's the main topic of the video, of the short form video. Maybe I do, and it's kind of like an example of one that I just made. I just made one on self-identity, and it's talking really about like the book Atomic Habits. I've been reading that recently by James Clear, and it talks about that behavior change, and I spoke about that on Instagram, on TikTok, and I wanted to go deeper so bad, so I was like holding back, and yeah, I feel that this is a very conducive, I guess, environment. Obviously, I'm just chatting by myself, but obviously I plan to bring other experts in various fields, and other people that interest me, and have them on and talk. So it's really exciting. It's all good stuff, but I wanted to, of course, talking about James Clear, his book on Atomic Habits. I wanted to expand on that in that video I was talking about, over on Instagram and TikTok, but I only had a minute, right? Can't do a 15-minute video. I think I can, but I'm just not. It's not a good idea. So when we think about behavior change, that could be, I understand that might be confusing for some, or even just it could be heavy. It could be a lot of different things. And when I talk about a lot of the things that I do talk about, I'm coming from experience. I don't. There might be I there's not a lot of times where I talk about things where I'm not coming from experience with. A lot of times you'll have some people online, on podcasts, on social media in general, where they're going to be inserting themselves into spaces where they might not have had experience with. For example, or not, it's not so much of speaking on behalf of that space, but it's more so that they're not, I guess, realizing that like waking up every morning at 4 a.m. or 6 a.m. is the right thing to do, but they're preaching it and saying that's how you're gonna lose 50 pounds in a month or something. You got to wake up every morning at 4 a.m. and hit the grind and just grind it out. Well, I got 2 kids that are absolutely insane, and yeah, I was up with my baby all night, or whatever it might be. I just did a video yesterday. It was just like, I had an eventful morning. It was just dad at home. Mom is over, she's working on some self-care. She's over at the gym getting some gym sessions in. She's getting, IV treatment. She's doing a bunch of things. Well, I got the kids in the morning, which is beautiful. Like, those moments are why I live. But what comes with those moments as a parent, and if you're a parent, you know this, is I made my lunch, of course, after I made their lunch. But when I made my lunch, all of a sudden an hour and a half goes by. By the time I get them down, they obviously ate their food. I clean them up. I clean the house, got them down, and then I started eating my food within 5 minutes. And that's, I guess, a lifestyle I've always had. I think I've always been a really fast eater, which is not a really good habit, honestly. Talking about atomic habits earlier. Not the best habit to eat very fast, but I grew up like that. I think that has a lot to do with maybe the wrestling culture in a way. There's some connection there. Not saying that we like preach to eat fast. I just think that whenever you cut so much weight and you withhold yourself from food, and then you start eating again, and you're just throwing it down, But of course, in the military, that's literally what they teach you from the beginning days, is to eat fast. But I had 5 minutes to eat. I ate my food. I didn't think I had 5 minutes to eat, but I realized I did after my daughter then comes out of the bedroom, asking for X, Y, or Z, and be like, yeah, I'm not taking a nap, dude. I'm like, oh my God. And I try to make a little video, right? And it literally happened in the video. And that wasn't the first, there was like 5 times she did that. So back to what I'm saying is, I typically only like to speak on things that I have maybe experience with. And how that relates to the topic today is that this behavior change is, I've spoken about it in a few videos online, on social media, through Instagram and TikTok. I lost 100 pounds a year ago. I lost 100 pounds over the last year, which is amazing. I can't believe that has happened. I couldn't believe I was 270 pounds. I'm 170 pounds today. Well, 173 as this morning. I don't understand what happened there. Gaining 3 pounds? No. I had a little too much to eat last night. I don't know. I got excited. But back to behavior change. Okay. So when losing that 100 pounds, thinking back to that person at 270, and do what you will with this. Like, if this connects to you or resonates with you, or maybe if you're a coach and you have never been overweight, a lot of coaches have never been overweight, and their client base might be overweight. And that's a lot of times you'll see coaches that don't want to deal with, overweight or just the general populace of clients. They want to maybe gear towards specific to athletes. because usually you don't get a lot of, they're athletic minded, right? Or they're already in the stages of like, they're in a healthy body. We're trying to do something with that. So you don't see a lot of coaches in that space, or they try to stay away from it. The great thing is I have been across every single space at this point. I was at a top performer in athletics, and I also been obese. Yeah, so that's the beautiful thing of it. But when you're at that stage of being overweight, and you're in the moment of realizing that you need to make change, there has to be some change. Now, I think I'll probably talk a little about why, at a later time, I'll probably talk a little bit about like why I made that change, why I decided to lose 100 pounds. But basically, how I've come to realize it, especially hearing Atomic Habits now, is, well, to achieve behavior change, James in the book talks about like a 3-layered approach. And now, while all those are important, those 3 layers, and you can look it up yourself, but basically those first 2, let's omit them for a second. Let's get to the core. He speaks of it like an onion. So you get the first layer, the second layer, take those out. The core of the onion, the core of behavior change and how to do it is through identity. Changing identity. He gave an example in the book about a smoker. Think of it like, you have 2 people. Now, they both smoked in their past life. They're recently transitioning into not smoking anymore. You can say quitting smoking. So, they both are offered a cigarette. One, the first person says, no, that's okay. I'm trying to quit smoking. And then the second person's offered a cigarette. That second person says, no, thank you. I'm not a smoker. See the difference there? I'm trying to quit, trying being the key word there. And then the second one is, I am not a smoker. Though they both were prior smokers, maybe even just yesterday, let's say. But that's the identity shift. Now, is that realistic usually for a person just completely identity shift in a day? No, and they most likely haven't. But they're convincing themselves that, hey, I am not a smoker. That's like their mantra now, right? I am not a smoker. And for me, that was a big piece of it. But in 2 different areas, I feel like. And I feel like you can separate identity, what I have written down here is 2 forms of identity, old and new. When I was at 270 pounds, I never looked at myself, and for the folks that are, are heavy, you're overweight, right? I know for a fact how it feels. I didn't look at myself in the mirror. And when if I accidentally looked at myself in the mirror, I'm quickly just taking my eyes off of that mirror. Like you're not coming to the realization that you are overweight and that you are just, let's say it, fat, okay? And that could be a harsh word for some. It was for me, but it wasn't until, and this is what worked for me, okay? But really until I realized and started like calling it what it was, and still having empathy behind it, like, Jordan, you're fat. And X, Y, and Z. Having empathy with that X, Y, and Z. But I wasn't just doing a bunch of negative self-talk, because that's not how we go about it. But the 2 forms of identity is realizing, in the book so far, you talk about this behavior change through identity, and it's really becoming that new identity, that new self. Because when you become 100 pounds less, or even whatever the transition is between this and that, this, what you were, is going to die. You want it to die. It will die. And that's the only way you're going to get from here to this new identity. That self will die, but he or she will always be around to remind you. And David Goggins talks about it. And he calls it his inner bitch, right? And I hear it all the time too. Like, that looks good. I might, you know what I mean? But you have to kill it. It'll always be there. Understand that old self, that old identity, it will die and become your new identity. But for me, I felt like I had to find that identity that I was in that moment. I never wanted to even realize what I was. So how could I get to a new identity? By imagining, I could just say, like, go to that new identity, but I never felt like I could do that without knowing what my identity was in the moment. There's a lot of self-reflection that you have to achieve, I believe, with aha moment, identity alignment, which I preach in my coaching. I think it's proof in the pudding. Now, coming to terms with who you are is hard, I think. But yeah, I wouldn't look myself in the mirror. I sure as hell wouldn't get on a scale. No. So, like, what a scale was for me, the object of a scale, was very triggering because of my past of wrestling, and then also my time in the Marine Corps. I think after I exited the Marine Corps in 2022, I never got a scale. No, that thing didn't live in my house. And even during the Marine Corps, I didn't have a scale. I just had the scale whenever I had to obviously weigh in at the actual, to make height and weight standards in the Marine Corps, right? So I hope you like my cup, if you didn't see it already. Anyway, so not looking myself in the mirror, not weighing myself on the scale. And another one was not taking pictures of myself, nor paying any attention to the pictures that were taken of myself. But it wasn't until Christmas of 2024, I guess. Yeah. I had family come in. We were doing a lot of different things, and well, lots of pictures. And I think I was already in this, I of course was already in this mindset of change and realizing I probably needed change. But it wasn't until I started looking at that body, started seeing myself, recognizing how big I actually got. 270 pounds, like that's huge. I'm 5'6", barely. Like I'm not that tall. So 270 pounds on 5'6" frame, that's moderately like muscular, right? My muscle mass is, I think, above average slightly, or just a little bit above average. It's not a good look. It's not a good look at all. So that's when I think it all started to change for me, is when I started to look at myself in the mirror, literally. So I think that's a huge piece of this, through a behavior change. And James in the book of Atomic Habits speaks about it, of this identity change, through like into your new identity almost. But I think that there's two parts to it, and you have to know who you are currently, or at least have an idea. And I just wanted to say, through that, I speak about it on some of my videos already, but loving yourself is so important. And what I mean by that, it's not the tree hugger mentality of like, you gotta just be okay with being overweight. No. But you have to just understand what I mean by loving yourself is really just showing empathy. And by doing that is just saying, why am I 270 pounds? And understanding, rather than just being like, you're fat, you are disgusting, you need to just, negative self-talk, right? That's not having empathy. That's not loving yourself. Loving yourself is being truthful and being like, you are fat. And why are we fat? Why are we at this point? Why do we have issues with our relationship with food? So you gotta dive into that stuff. So the second part to all this is this new identity. And back to the example of the smoker. You think about who you want to become, and for me in those moments, I'm trying to think back when I first started. I didn't take it serious, by the way. When I started losing weight, what was different about this time, about when I actually lost the weight and I'm keeping it off, and I'm actually losing more weight, in a healthy way, by the way. Was I did it in a healthy way, but the bigger one was weird. I didn't give a shit. I didn't care in the beginning. Like I wasn't actually trying. What I think made the difference for me, and why I chose to create Forge Performance and be an integrative health coach, and I'll be looking to get board certified here in March. I'm certified now, but to get board certified in the National Board of Health and Wellness Coaching in March, I went to the VA, right? I'm a veteran. I went to the VA here, and they said, "You are fat." And I go, "Thanks, man. Appreciate that. No shit, right?" But my doctor obviously didn't just say it like that. He said, "Listen, you are. I think that we both know you're clearly overweight." And I feel it every day. And he's like, "Well, we recommend this one program. It was called the MOVE program." And when I heard about the MOVE program, I've heard about it in the past, and I was like, "No, I know what to do. I'm, again, high performer in the wrestling community. I was in athletics my entire life. I, by the way, studied kinesiology and exercise science. That's what's so sad. I studied kinesiology, exercise science for 3 years at the university level. And now, obviously, I don't have my degree in kinesiology. I have it in computer science and a master's degree in cybersecurity. But I study this stuff, and I know what to do. So when I heard about this MOVE program, I was like, "No, I'm not a bitch. I don't need that. No, I don't need a little program to help me move around." Well, in the moment, I didn't say that. I was like, "Oh yeah, let me know. Send it over my way." And well, they will call you, and they did, and they're like, "Hey, these are the programs that we offer." And one of them was a health coach, and I was like, "That's the least entry for me." I was like, "Yeah, sign me up for a health coach." Woo! Which they call it the whole health program, whole health coaching, which is essentially the same arena as integrative health coach, which is what I am now. So we went through the whole health coaching approach, and if you're a veteran, if you don't know what the MOVE program is, or if you are handling it like I did, lose the ego, buddy. If you need it, use it. It's a huge resource. So, and those coaches out there are amazing. And I had my coach, who is local to my area, which is pretty cool. I remember it was around Veterans Day, 2024, and we were on a call, our first call, and I was driving to a Veterans Day event for my work. I forgot I had a call with this guy. I didn't give him any time of day. I just picked up and I'm like, "Oh, hi, yeah. What do you need me to do? You want me to set some goals? Well, you want to understand he was looking for all this stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I think it's this, or yeah, I think it's that. Like, what do you think your problem is here? What do you think that?" Asked me a lot of really good, great questions, and I didn't give him any good answers. It was terrible. But that goes along with what I'm trying to say. Is it was so weird. It was when I lost all the weight, I didn't care, and that was what was different. I felt like I cared a lot, and I tried all of these things when I tried to lose all the weight before. And I'm not saying that's the key to the success. What was probably key to success is when I finally gave in to allow someone to help me, even though I thought I knew everything, which you might, but you don't know how to apply it to yourself. So that's the biggest thing. But when you're going into that new identity, going back to the full circle here. So I told you I like to talk, but you go into that new identity, you have to start realizing, what that new identity looks like, but also starting to almost manipulate yourself. Some people will just call it confidence, but I'm weird. You have to gaslight yourself, and believing is weird. It's like when you start seeing progress, you have to start believing that this is you will say to yourself, "This is who I am. I am this athletic person now. I am someone that goes to the gym, even though you might be severely overweight and you look disgusting. You might not have that image yet, but you believe in yourself that you are this person, this new identity, someone that gives a shit about their health or makes healthy choices. And when you're offered a Twinkie, you don't eat 12 of them, or you just don't eat any of them, and you might just want to have something else. So that's a big thing, is finding that new identity and whatever it is that you're wanting to do with your life. You realize that this identity that you have right now isn't a conducive one or a healthy one. So there's the biggest thing about behavior change, is just through that identity piece. But that's the biggest things when it comes to this that I want to talk about. So I think I'm gonna keep it short. We hit 30 minutes. I think that's plenty of time. But yeah, I think this is gonna be a wonderful platform for myself to really just talk through some things. I have a lot of big plans. You can see where I'm sitting right now. This is an external building to my house. It's where I work out of. I do have a little home office setup. It's a little, as we call, mother-in-law suite. I'm going to completely renovate this thing and turn it into a podcast studio. Half of it will be a podcast studio. Half of it will be what this is over here on this side, which is an office space for myself. But I'm really excited for this. I think this is going to be a great journey. I plan to have on a lot of different folks. I think from like a theology standpoint, even from theology, spiritual. Also, I would love to have other integrative health coaches, experts in this space, come on and talk. And I would love to have, other veterans come on and talk about their story, about, what their military experience looks like, and a lot of nonprofits in my area. The great thing about Northwest Arkansas, when you probably heard that in the beginning and you're not from this area, don't know anything about it, you're like, this dude's in Arkansas? It's a little different out here in the Northwest Arkansas area. Obviously home of Walmart, home of Tyson, J.B. Hunt. And so there's a lot of companies out here. And there's a lot of cool people out here with a lot of cool stories, and I hope to bring them on. But what I hope for all of this is that a space for me to talk, of course, but really I hope this is a space where you can connect and pull from whatever the hell I'm talking about. That's all we have for today. Appreciate you joining today. This is the first of many. I'll see you guys next week. See y'all later.